Corrosive materials can attack, corrode metals, or cause permanent damage to human tissues, such as the skin and eyes on contact. Burn injuries and blindness can result from exposure. Handling corrosive materials is like dealing with strong cleaning acids. If they spill, they can eat away at surfaces and seriously harm your skin, so you need to be very careful. Corrosive materials may also cause metal containers or structural materials to become weak and eventually leak or collapse. They should be stored separately from other chemicals, especially oxidizers and flammables. It's like storing your cleaning supplies in a safe place, away from other items that could be damaged. Proper storage prevents accidents and keeps everyone safe. Examples of corrosive materials include rust removers, laundry stain removers, oven cleaners, and toilet bowl cleaners. These are everyday items like the strong cleaners you use at home. They can be very effective, but if not handled properly, they can cause damage. Toxic materials may be classified as toxic or very toxic. For example, materials causing death or immediate injury. Poisonous chemicals and materials can be found in most workplaces and households. Handling toxic materials is like dealing with rat poison or strong pesticides. They can be dangerous if inhaled, swallowed, or if they come into contact with your skin. Toxic materials should be stored in a locked cabinet and never near food or where people are eating. Proper storage ensures that they don't accidentally contaminate food or other safe areas. It's like keeping your cleaning chemicals out of reach of children or pets. Safe storage prevents accidental poisoning and keeps everyone safe. Examples of toxic chemicals include rat poison, insecticides, and certain cleaning supplies. These are like the products you use to kill pests or clean tough stains. They're powerful, but they can be harmful if not used and stored correctly. Irritants can cause discomfort or inflammation, but they are not as dangerous as corrosive or toxic materials. However, they still require careful handling to avoid skin or eye irritation. Health hazards occur when a chemical produces an acute or chronic health effect on exposed employees who may not see, feel, or smell the danger. This could include issues like lung damage from long-term exposure to dust or fumes. Health hazards are like slowly getting sick from breathing in dust over time. You might not notice it right away, but it can cause serious problems down the line if you're not protected. Biohazardous infectious materials. This category applies to materials that contain harmful microorganisms such as syringes, broken glass, human body fluids, and items used by others. Handling biohazardous materials is like dealing with used needles or blood samples. They can carry diseases, so it's important to handle them with extra care to avoid infection. Safety guidelines for chemical handling. Employers must ensure that every worker who works with or may be exposed to a hazardous product is instructed on the contents required on a supplier label and workplace label, and the purpose and significance of the information, the contents required on a safety data sheet, and the purpose and significance of the information. Procedures for the safe use, storage, handling, and disposal of a hazardous product. Procedures to follow in case of an emergency involving a hazardous product.
Hazardous chemicals. They can be found practically everywhere on the job site and in many commonly used products. There are several different types of chemical hazards. There are toxic chemicals that can have a poisonous effect on a person. There are carcinogenic chemicals believed to cause cancer after exposure. There are corrosive chemicals causing visible destruction or alterations. There are irritants, chemicals causing an inflammatory effect, and sensitizers, chemicals causing an allergic reaction in tissues. There are also flammable liquids that emit vapors that may catch fire, and there are combustible liquids that combust after being exposed to high temperatures. These chemicals may cause physical damage to the body. They can have chronic effects, a disease that develops over time, or acute effects, symptoms that appear or change rapidly. There are a variety of ways in which chemicals can be exposed to the body. The primary methods of entry are inhalation, a chemical entering the body through breathing, absorption, skin contact with a chemical, and ingestion, eating or drinking of a chemical. Chemical safety begins with a written hazard communication program, which covers how chemical hazards will be addressed on the job site and will include a list of all hazard chemicals present in the workplace. All workers who may be exposed to hazardous chemicals should review the program. There are two primary methods to communicating chemical safety information. One, ensuring containers of hazardous chemicals are properly labeled, and two, maintaining safety data sheets, or SDSs, which are sources of detailed information on the hazardous chemical. Labels provide an immediate warning of hazards. Product manufacturers are required to provide labels on all shipped containers with information, including product identifier or product name, signal words like danger or warning, hazard statements like fatal if inhaled, hazard pictograms that alert users of the chemical hazards to which they may be exposed. Each pictogram consists of a symbol on a white background framed within a red border and represents a distinct hazard, such as a health hazard, flammable, corrosive, toxic, and irritant. Precautionary statements like do not eat, drink, or smoke when using this product. And lastly, the name, address, and phone number of the responsible party. It's important to ensure that all containers on the job site are clearly labeled, so you know exactly what is in the container. A battered or old label might be hard to read. If this is the case, make sure to replace the existing label with a new one that includes the product name and general information concerning the hazards of the chemical. In addition, if you're transferring something from the manufacturer's container to your own container, it must be labeled, unless you plan to use up all the product and the container will be empty at the end of the day. Then you don't need to label it for that day. SDS stands for Safety Data Sheet. Safety data sheets serve as the source of detailed information on a particular hazardous chemical. It's required that all product manufacturers and distributors provide safety data sheets to its users. If you didn't receive an SDS form from your supplier, you should request one or visit their website to download. SDSs have a uniform format and are divided into 16 sections. The SDS contains important information, such as the chemical's health hazards and flammability, first aid and firefighting measures, precautions for safe handling and storage, appropriate engineering controls, personal protective equipment, PPEs needed, and emergency procedures for spills. All SDSs must be readily accessible to workers when they are on the job site. Storing your SDS sheets in a binder in a central location where easily accessible, for instance in a pickup truck on a construction site, is a common practice. The SDSs can also be kept on a phone, tablet, or computer, as long as the workers have immediate access to the information when it's needed. Also, in the event of a medical emergency, hard or physical printed copies of the SDS must be made available immediately to medical personnel. Finally, follow the appropriate safe practices when working with any hazardous chemicals. Familiarize yourself with chemical hazards on your job site, as there may be more than one hazard for each type of product. Before working with a product, read the safety information on the label and the safety data sheet. Use the proper personal protective equipment such as gloves, eye and face protection, aprons, and respirators. Chemicals should always be kept in their original container and stored in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Keep flammable and combustible chemicals away from heat sources. Dispose of any excess product correctly, not down the drain. Spills should be cleaned up immediately. When working with corrosives, an eye wash or shower must be readily available for immediate emergency use. If chemical exposure has occurred, the worker should seek the appropriate medical care. Workers using chemicals should wash thoroughly before eating, drinking, smoking, and leaving the job site. Chemicals are found all over the job site, and some of them are more hazardous than others. Container labels and safety data sheets will give you information about the hazardous materials with which you work. Pay close attention to the hazard warnings listed, and always follow the manufacturer's safe handling, use, and storage of all products and chemicals.
Real-life example of chemical safety. A restaurant worker accidentally had a cleaning chemical splash back into her eyes while pouring it into a bucket to mop the floor. She was taken to an eye wash station, and paramedics were called. The worker continued to flush her eyes until paramedics arrived, and she was taken to the hospital for further treatment. This example shows why it's important to know where safety equipment is and how to use it. Quick action can prevent a small accident from becoming a big problem. General safety guidelines include washing hands before eating or smoking, avoiding dispensing airborne chemicals near where people are eating or drinking, keeping containers, especially of flammable liquids and acids, closed when not in use and properly labeled at all times, cleaning up spilled chemicals immediately and referring to the safety data sheet for proper disposal, avoiding unnecessary personal contact with chemicals, personal protective equipment (PPE). During normal operations, only the personal protective equipment supplied by the employer should be worn. If an employee's clothing is contaminated with a hazardous material, it must be decontaminated or discarded if extremely toxic. All personal protective equipment must be inspected and cleaned before and after use and stored in a sanitary location. Never use defective PPE. Wearing PPE is like wearing an apron and gloves while cooking. It protects you from spills and splashes, keeping you safe while you work.